Student environment.
Moving to Young, so I'm still in Thurston County.
Welcome. It is 5:30 on Thursday, April 3rd. This is the meeting of the Human Services Commission for the City of Lacey. And we are meeting this evening in the Lacey Veterans Services Hub. And so it's time to call this meeting to order. So official. We have our commissioners this evening. Brandon Stevens, our chair, is excused. I'm Angelina Goldwell, and I'm your vice chair overseeing the meeting this evening. We have, would you like to introduce yourself? Just say your name.
I'm Nancy Dela, and I'm here.
And you are here.
Tiffany Walker here.
And then,
Dalia Martinez present.
fantastic. And then we have Yvette Temple, who is excused for this evening. And we were anticipating our youth council representative, so hopefully he will make his appearance soon. But that is our attendance for the evening. So we're going to move into the land acknowledgement. We, the city of Lacey, are on the ancestral land of the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek, including the Nisqually Indian tribe and Squaxin Island tribe. We acknowledge and remember those tribal people not recognized today who were absorbed or relocated into other tribes for survival. We recognize the ancestors and their descendants who are still here. We recognize and respect the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek as the traditional stewards of this land since time immemorial, and their role today in taking care of these lands in perpetuity. We recognize and have the responsibility to call attention to the histories of dispossession, forced removal, and abridged treaty rights that allowed our nation, state, and city to develop as they have today. We recommend that community members read the Medicine Creek Treaty of 1854. Our next item is approval of the agenda and previous minutes. So starting with the approval of the agenda, do I have a motion to approve?
Vice Chair, just to interject really quickly, you can do all of them at
Oh.
once.
Fantastic. Oh, there we go. I move to approve the agenda and the as written and the February 6th, 2025 meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Nancy seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. I saw your mouth. Could I get like a thumbs up for the record?
Eyes.
Thank you. All right, so moved, so approved. We can move on to the public comment section. At this time, we have no one who is pre-registered, no one waiting in the online waiting room, and no one present in the chamber with us. So I think that means we can move on to portion 6, the business items, which means attention to Michelle Chavez and all of the good information she has for us today.
Thank you very much for that, Vice Chair. I'm gonna share the screen. Find our Human Services Program, Grant Program update here. Oops, that's not. Okay, thank you. I just want to go through a few slides. In your packet, you had a few different items. You have a staff report on the Human Services Grant Program. And you have a couple different attachments to that staff report. You have the draft Human Services Grant Program policy, which we've talked about several times. You have the draft Human Services Grant application for 2025. And you also have the draft Human Services Grant Program rubric for 2025. So your staff report goes over kind of all the previous times we've talked about this program, and it talks about how we are going to move forward with it in 2025 proposal, the proposed ideas to move forward. So again, we have another 300,000 allocated in the 2025 city budget. Purposes to increase equity, efficiency, and predictability. Like last year, you all helped us evaluate the applications. And we want to establish a comprehensive, reliable, accessible, and predictable program so that the community knows what to expect. And everybody has an equal opportunity to apply for funds from the city of Lacey for their human services programs. We are working on off of our kind of similar priorities that we had in 2024, where we have the 3 key buckets: housing, survival, and security, based on basic human needs. We are still in the process of going through and doing a human services needs assessment. So we will definitely update you on that when we have more chance to go through the data and we've completed all of our community outreach on that. So our couple things that are new this year is the application. We talked about this a couple times, and you all had recommended to make a recommendation that we do cap the public service programs at 35,000. That's something new in 2025. Last time we did not have a cap, and we got a lot of very large requests, which made it difficult for us to spread that pot farther. And then also 1 application per agency. So hopefully with these changes, we'll be able to fund more agencies. Hopefully some of the folks who didn't get funded last year will reapply and we'll be able to fund them this year. This is all a draft. Final approval will go before the city council. So you'll be making a recommendation on kind of how we move forward. So the first folks to see any of this is yourself. That's why we have our commission to look over the program parameters, make recommendations for changes. We hope to bring it to council in April. We hope to open applications at the end of this month. Again, having a workshop for the applicants so that they can ask questions, and I would record that and make that available to anybody who couldn't make the meeting. They don't have to be in person. We would tentatively review applications end of May, early June, with the idea of doing that presentation meeting where we had everybody come in June, early June, have our rubric scores due early June. We might need to have a special extra meeting. I think we had 2 meetings in June last year, just because we were trying to get all the business done about the grading and the scoring. And then hopefully have the council make a decision in July on those recommendations that you all make. So we would start the program year a couple months sooner. Last year we started in October. This year we're aiming to try to start in August. So that's kind of the preview of the actual overview of the program. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns about the program this year? Okay.
No, it looks like an entirely manageable timeline.
Very similar to last year, only we're getting an earlier start.
Yes.
And then now we're going to get into one of your attachments, the application. So we have not changed this significantly. This is the cover page of the application. It talks about how, again, folks have to be nonprofits. They have to meet one of these 3 key human service needs: housing, survival, security. The new thing is the $35,000 cap for services. We're going to keep the capital project cap at 50,000. Applicants don't need to be physically located in Lacey. However, they must demonstrate how their programs and projects would positively benefit our community members here. And then for capital projects, we would require the actual physical location to be in the city of Lacey. All this is subject to change, but our goal is to run the program from August 1st, 2025 to July 31st, 2026. And again, having a workshop May 1st, have applications open for a month, have presentations June 5th. So the key components of this application again are section 1, the general info, section 2, organizational overview, section 3, program or project overview, and section 4, the budget overview. And in your packet, I did put a copy of the application so you can see the complete copy. It's gonna all be online again. And I also put an attachment in there that how it's gonna look for you, because I know when I printed out the applications last year, some of them had some extra white space in there and it might have made it difficult to read. So my goal is to this year have it looking very succinct without all that kind of blank white pages for you, make your reading experience better. And I heard from you all, you don't need all the attachments. You want me to make sure everyone has all of their correct attachments, and that's all correct, but that you don't need every single copy of the things that we require. Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns on the application?
When I looked at it, I wanted to let you know, I thought it looked a lot sharper than last year.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Learning as we,
Yeah.
it was my first year with application.
And really done very quickly too.
Yeah.
So the fact that it got done was significant.
So the scoring rubric, it's a little hard to see online, but in person here, again, follows with the application, section 1, general info, section 2, organizational overview, section 3, program or project overview, and then section 4, the budget. You all had expressed last year that you wanted it to be more clear that you can score anything in the range. So for question 1, 0 to 5, you could put any number between those two that you'd like. You don't have to be a 0, a 3, or a 5, or a 0, 5, 10, or 15. It can be 8. It can be an odd number, whatever you feel. A 0 means they don't answer the question. Mid-range means that they somewhat explain the question, and then that top score of 15 would mean they clearly answered the question. They hit all of the points. Stuck with the same recommendations from last year about what would be scored and what wouldn't be scored. You all had very good feedback on how we evaluate, what we put the weight on. You can tell that in this application, client-centered voice is highly weighted. Also diversity, equity, inclusion, you put high weight on that. And then pretty evenly about how the program or project will be delivered, the measurable outcomes, how you'll determine service eligibility, those are pretty evenly split. And then the budget is about 15 points total. So any questions, comments, concerns regarding the rubric?
One of the things I'm curious about, because I, personally, I was not on the commission yet, last year during the presentations. So I, lean on, more experienced committee members, but are we understanding the presentation period as, so for example, if someone answers a question somewhat, but doesn't answer it fully, is that a space where we give them sort of a secondary opportunity to fill in those gaps for us? Or is that kind of they either answer it in the application or they don't?
I feel like that's why we had them come explain their programs and how this funding would help benefit their programs. So if it wasn't clear in their application, then we would have a better understanding to help us determine how to score them.
Great.
I might be wrong.
Nope, that's 100% correct. And so during that open period where you're all evaluating, you'll get a chance to do your scoring, but then in that process before your rubric scores are due, you'll hear directly from the applicant. So if you're thinking, I want to give them maybe an 8 or 7, but I think I need to learn more, they come in person to City Hall, or some of them did on Zoom. You can ask them whatever questions you want.
Fantastic.
And then your rubric wouldn't be due until after you've talked to everybody.
I found the notes that I took during those sessions very valuable for scoring.
Yeah, I wasn't present, so I had to review the videos, but they were helpful.
Great, fantastic. Yeah, since, I mean, But I know for me, if I'm writing something down versus if I am explaining it out loud, I will try to hit all the same points, but I may not. And so having multiple opportunities, I'm really glad to hear that.
Well, and some people communicate better different ways.
Mhm.
And so, you know, you catch the passion in their voice that you might not on a piece of paper.
Mhm.
Very true.
That concludes my presentation on the 2025 Human Services Grant Program. Any other questions, comments, please let me know. You can email me anytime if anything comes up prior to the kickoff of the timeline.
I'm excited we're in year 2.
Yeah, thank you
Very
for all the
excited.
work you've done on pulling all of this together in an accessible format for folks.
While working a full-time job.
No, I don't have any questions. That was very well put together and I appreciate you taking in consideration our suggestions. And that was amazing to hear that you actually took some thought and consideration into what we had inputted to you.
We value your input. Okay, that was that item.
Well, so before we move on, commissioners, if we could actually just get a recommendation on moving forward, an official recommendation on moving forward with the updated policy application and rubric.
All that out now, so I'll second.
Oh, would you like?
So, yeah.
All right, Dahlia, go for it.
Yes. Aye.
Oh, she was just saying, all right.
Oh, you were just saying,
Yeah.
aye, perfect.
Yeah.
So for the official language, I move that we recommend all of the things that Michelle just said, recommend moving forward with the updated HSGP policy application and rubric. Do I have a second?
I second that motion.
Tiffany seconds. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thanks, Dahlia. All right, that motion passed. Good news. This is exciting. All right. Okay, so we are going to move into community block grant development. Community development block grant program update, which I know that we've all been eager to hear about these updates given everything that's happening in the world right now. So it'll be good to hear about this funding.
Looks like I still have the other PowerPoint. I apologize.
Oh, it's all good.
We're in a new environment.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the correct one.
Yay.
Who's that?
That's my daughter.
I saw the dog too.
Oh, the dogs, yep, the dogs. She'll be so happy to know that she popped up on the screen during this. Okay, CDBG, this is a tongue twister. You are gonna get real used to saying that, but it's oftentimes we stumble, it's CDBG, Community Development Block Grant Program. You have in your packet a staff report. It includes one attachment of CDBG eligible activities. Talked about, we anticipate getting $304,000 approximately from the federal government as an entitlement community. This is the first year that Lacey's kind of become its own entitlement community. We became eligible a couple years ago, and so we are, we took the steps we needed to take last year to get the authority to apply for those funds. So we have lots of reports we have to write and kind of setting that up and getting that all into HUD. The last time we met, we talked about a 30-day public review and comment period. That was open from December 5th to January 5th. And you all gave feedback on that community participation plan that outlines all of the things we need to do with our public dollars. And that's the federal requirements. By federal law, we have to do all this community participation. We have to publish things in the newspaper. We have to give a 30-day review and comment. And I received feedback from you all. I have not received additional feedback from the community other than what I heard at the meeting with the commission. So that will be on file and we'll be following that along as we move forward to getting our CDBG dollars. So I'm gonna do a quick overview. We've already talked about all of this and it's just a refresher. In order to use the funds, we have to meet a national objective, and these are the 3 national objectives that HUD allows: benefit to low moderate income people, aid in the prevention of slumber blight, or meet an urgent need. And again, our estimated allocation is $304,850, but that could change. Everything that we publish regarding potential allocations, if Congress hasn't voted on it yet and passed it, we'll say this is the estimated amount. Maximum, this is how they kind of split the pots for the communities: 15% for public service, maximum 20% for admin, no cap on capital. So capital projects are, again, brick and mortar where you're improving a facility. You could be doing infrastructure, you could be improving a homeless shelter, etc. So public works and parks are also included in the infrastructure category. Typically ineligible for CDBG or general government expenses. Can't supplement your regular operating expenses with CDBG. Public facilities, like we want to improve the city hall or pay for police stations, things like that. That's typically not an eligible expense. Political activities, income payments, and then permanent residential housing construction. The HUD department has other programs that fund brand new housing. We typically use these for rehab, residential rehab, or kind of, they'll do acquisition and environmental remediation, environmental things like that.
What is income payments?
They'd be like emergency rental assistance.
Oh,
You're limited to how much you can do. I
okay,
believe it's 3 months maximum.
okay.
I would need to go back and check on that for sure. So in order to certify projects, we have to fall under an area benefit where all residents are at least 50% of low moderate income. Or if it's not an area benefit, it could be a presumed benefit, which is abused children, domestic violence, older adults, unhoused persons, etc. And then demonstrated to be LMI. Sometimes we have to verify individually. For example, if someone were to be getting rehab of their home, it's their personal, property, low income, we'd have to verify their low income. The housing benefit is to provide permanent residential structures that will be occupied. So they projects that improve, not build new. So this is our Lacey area benefit. You've probably seen this map before. I think I had it in a staff report before. We have 2 areas that are qualified under the census tract. Low to moderate income that would be eligible for CDBG projects. We took a look at what can we do in terms of the staffing that we have right now. We could do capital projects, competitive projects, or service programs. And the staff is recommending to start to do some smaller capital projects just so we can kind of get the money up and running and get all of our reports written. And we have to get all of our stuff in by July.
Mm-hmm.
So we're on a really strict timeline. There's a lot more admin needed to do for if you were to do a competitive service program, and a lot more lead up time. So at this time, we're going to recommend to do some small city capital projects for the first couple of years until we're able to get all of our admin up and running and get our service programs enriched. So like we have this robust human service grant program right now, which is a great supplement to this kind of capital focus because there's a lot more flexibility with those dollars. People don't have as much rigid reporting requirements. So it's kind of like a baby step to get to that part.
Do you mind if I ask,
Yes.
like, what type of city capital projects you're referring to?
We're gonna get into that. That's the
Okay.
next.
Sorry, I
couple
apologize.
slides.
I
No,
always do that.
no, that's right. That's exactly what I'm gonna talk about next. So here's some potential projects we looked at. We asked city departments. Huntermore Park is in a project that's kind of in the near term. Upgrades to that, it falls under our area benefit map. ADI sidewalk updates, we could do that in any of our qualified tracks, so we could do that near term. Senior center expansion, that's kind of a near to long term. That's a big project, but we definitely want to improve. If you've ever been to the senior center, you know that they are maxed out in terms
Yeah.
of their space. Brooks Park, we have a qualified census tract park that they have new amenities planned in 2027. Other public infrastructure could be lighting or septic. Rainier Vista Park is a qualified census tract park. They have some new playgrounds they want to work on and pickleball courts. And then the Lacey Museum and Cultural Center, which is a long-term project that is probably the most expensive project on this sheet. So this is Huntimer Park. You're probably all familiar with it. It's really close to here. They want to work on improving the sidewalks and improving the features on the play area. I don't know what the playground area. Climbing structure, that's what they call it. There's cracking, fiberglass, and general equipment deterioration. Design efforts have been started. Estimated cost is $515,000. And sidewalk replacements will also be necessary due to age and general deterioration.
So if I could just for a second, Michelle, before you move on, I think just to highlight that this is one of our actually most frequently visited parks because of a lot of the free programming that goes in there. So concerts at the park, movie night.
And vendors selling things. I love that.
Exactly.
Food, the barbecue, the annual barbecue that we have.
Yep, and we host our, our lighted parade,
Mhm.
ends up there. And so this is, just really a big community asset
Mhm.
for free programming. And that's
So
one of
is
the
this-
reasons we're looking to do it and kind of reactivate it.
Is this one eligible, or I can't remember the name of the playground company that does big projects. You help provide the volunteers for it, but you don't pay very much for the actual presentation.
Not familiar with the project or program that you're talking about, Nancy, but certainly.
Give me a
appreciate
minute
more
or two, I'll
information
think of
and
it.
We can look into that, but I, do recognize that when we're putting together these planning processes, it's a pretty thorough and lengthy event, and we
Yeah.
do need to meet a lot of requirements that maybe other private developments wouldn't need to
Yeah.
meet, so I'd certainly be interested in that information.
I'll think of it. Kaboom, kaboom.
Okay.
Okay, I'm writing that down. Kaboom. We'll look into that. So Rainier Vista Community Park is another project that falls within our area benefit area. These are the two kind of nearest timeliness parks. Again, adding pickleball courts. Right now, there's like long waiting lists for people to use the pickleball court. Safety netting on the softball field, outdoor ping pong tables. Again, that's overwhelming demand that we have, so we're looking to incorporate these new amenities. The cost of that project is about $988,200. So again, $988,000. We don't have $988,000, but as we move forward, looking at improving our parks, it could make an impact on their budget to help infrastructure projects. Brooks Parks, I don't have a fancy overhead kind of site plan for this one, but they're looking to do improvements to Brooks Park as well.
Where's this park located in Lacey?
That's a great question. So if you drive between City Hall and you're headed south, you
Mhm.
will see a small sign that says Brooks Park.
Oh.
And it is, you take the right and it's a very small park.
Yeah.
And so you can see from the photos, it's really not activated to a large degree. It's got a nice green space and it's got benches.
Mhm.
And so something this project would be looking to do in the future is to add some additional amenities,
Mhm.
like larger playground facility to
That'd be
get more
amazing.
folks there. But yeah, next time you're driving down College, look for.
I'm
this
going
sign.
to, yeah.
Where's that out on College?
1313 College Street. It's 1.1 acres.
I drive up and down College all the time and I've never seen it.
So now you'll all be on the lookout.
Yeah, I'm gonna be on the lookout for it. I'm all for bringing outside activities for kids.
Yeah.
I'm big on that.
Another large project is the Virgil Clark Senior Center, which we talked about. This is a long-term project. One of the larger projects, and this just overview site plan shows the phases of the project. They're very much maxed out on their current existing footprint. And so they need to expand to meet the needs of our growing community. The estimated cost is 4.3 million, and it would be a kind of more further in the future, 2028 to 2029. They're currently looking at the parking lot improvements as well. That would be about 620,000.
So if I could just add a little bit more onto that one. So, you know, Michelle mentioned that this is a highly used facility and a great asset for older adults in our community. One of the things that the project is looking to do is to add the third phase, which you can see kind of in that yellow space. So adding that out to the existing building. And as part of the project, what we've recognized with the facility itself is there's not enough parking in the entrance
Mhm.
for the senior center.
Mhm.
A lot of folks have to go park
Right, yeah.
towards the park and then head over, and it just creates an accessibility barrier.
Mhm.
And so we're gonna be looking to expand the parking lot to allow for a lot more parking directly around the senior center to allow for access, in addition to that space for additional programming.
Great.
And again, another longer term, more costly project would be the Lacey Museum and Cultural Center, which falls under our area benefit area. This has been a long-term goal of the city, has been development for over 2 decades. The current museum facility is insufficient to meet the community's needs. And they actually, I think we're actually in a temporary spot right now. We moved the museum to Bell Center, which is right down here. And so this would be a larger project again that we could look at potentially funding.
I mean, I will say that I personally love the train depot. I have a 6-year-old who's been obsessed with that park since he was, I don't know, 2. And I know that, parents in the community really appreciated the gate additions so that, kids couldn't roam, and the food trucks and everything else. It'd be a lovely place to be able to break ground on the cultural center.
Yeah, perfect area.
Yeah.
Where are you guys thinking about putting it?
And that exact location is where it's currently designed for. So
Oh.
you can actually see the train playground right there in the circular
Yeah,
space.
so the playground is already there.
Okay, the
the-
design's different, okay.
Yeah, that whole building, right now is a gravel parking lot.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, okay. That's amazing, okay. I love the trade depot, it's nice, and I like that you guys do this YA market there too.
Mhm.
Again, another item that falls into this category of capital is infrastructure projects. So these are just examples. These aren't Lacey projects, but some other items that could be possibly paid for with CDBG funding.
One thing I'll add about these smaller projects are that they are scalable. So these could be things that could potentially be easier to access as we start this
Yeah.
program. Especially recognizing that, you know, we're starting with just over $300,000 and trying to get into our groove. And so some of these projects, you know, may be small, but they would have significant impacts for the community members who use them on a daily basis.
Mhm.
So again, just bringing back the process that we mentioned the matrix earlier in the presentation. We would like to start with capital projects based on admin and staff time and the process for getting our plan approved. We would like to have up to 10%. We feel that we don't need the full 20% right now at this time to subsidize the admin of the project. We notice as we move forward and if we start adding competitive process and adding public service, the admin costs will go up. So that's why on the chart, there's a 15 and 20% as you look at into the future, possibly using some more of those funds. Questions about the CDBG staff report?
2 questions.
Yes.
The first one is the proverbial elephant in the room. Have we heard that this is going to continue with the current economic situation with the government?
It's a great question. As of right now, we're planning as if the funding is going to continue, and we're constantly evaluating to see what does occur.
Okay. And the second question is, assuming that the money does come in, are agencies able to submit an application for both, or do they have to choose one or the other?
Well, what we're proposing is that we wouldn't have an application process the first year or two because we would do city projects to start. And then as we get the admin staffing up, we would implement more, we could, if this commission and the council would like, implement more of a competitive process.
So does the government allow you, the federal government allow you to designate funds towards the city when it's a community grant? Or are you doing it because all of the proposals are community programs?
So they allow us to spend it if we meet one of those eligibility, if we have to, and we looked at just falling under that area benefit
Mhm.
within that map. So we couldn't, it has to benefit a majority residential, and it has to benefit an area of the city. It can't just be anywhere. It has to fall under one of the federal maps
Mhm.
that says these census tracts are over 50% low to moderate income. And so we could do an infrastructure project there. But it wouldn't be approved in other parts of the city.
So who's submitting those proposals? Is it coming from the city manager's office?
So we would submit the proposal based on behalf of the city of Lacey with the approval of the city council and the commission to put that in our plan for the next couple of years.
Okay,
So the next couple of years is there's about 3 years until we have to write up another 5-year plan or update our 5-year plan. So we're starting with a kind of a smaller, typically the comp plan is 5 years. But ours is 3 because we became independent of Thurston County in the middle of the cycle.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where we're at with that. I hope that makes sense.
So a couple of additions to that, I think, one of the things we're thinking about is as we're starting this project, because this is our first time ever doing it. And as you mentioned, we've got a lot of other things that are happening concurrently. We're looking to, with option number 1, to kind of give us kind of a trial period, right, of having some of the things a little bit more controllable with projects that we're putting forward so that we can really understand kind of what we need to do, how we need to process it. And I will say, Michelle isn't an expert in this field, and that's one of the great benefits that she brings to the city of many. But we're really just trying to think of like, hey, how can we make it easiest to get those dollars in motion and out in making improvements in the
Mhm.
community? And then thinking about reevaluating in the future what those dollars can go to.
Mhm. I'm amazed at how much you do. I don't know how you manage everything that you do, and this is a huge, huge project. If you've done CDBG before, you know that there's so much accountability and reporting. It's gonna be a lot of work for you or your department or however that falls out.
Mhm. Yes, it's great to have a lot of really competent, wonderful people at Lacey who can help with things like environmental reviews and, projects and helping us because it is a lot.
Mhm.
Even if you have a small pot of money, it is a lot of requirements. And that's why I like the fact that Lacey has this other pot of money that is more flexible, makes it easier for people to spend it down.
Mhm.
And it gives folks kind of they're getting like a practice run of what does that application process look like? Kind of all that is similar to if you were doing like a CDBG competitive, what would be required, except there would be more federal requirements.
Well, and I like what Michelle said to add on to that. It gives you an opportunity to work the system and to know what you want and how much it's gonna take time wise and energy and staff wise. I think that's really important too.
So Michelle, is that 300,000 that we'll be getting for CDGB? I hope I said that right?
Close,
Dang it.
you get it.
Is that gonna be a reoccurring over the course of the 3 years that you guys have, before you have to report again? Will you get that annually?
Hopefully,
Or is
that
it just-
nothing changes.
Yeah. Have you guys already got like your temporary, not like your, like a projection of what your budget might be from them?
So-
And then the final should come out like here in the next month or two?
It's a federal formula grant.
Mhm.
And when you get to be a certain size of a city, you
Mhm.
can get those funds directly. We had been part of a consortium with Thurston County. And we decided we wanted to go out on our own so we could have more local control.
Nice.
And when we were Thurston County Consortium, we got it every 3 years.
all of our funds.
Oh,
Now we will be able to get it every year.
that's amazing. I like that.
So
Okay.
instead of a 3-year pot, which is a bigger pot, but you don't get to have the hands-on and be very super involved.
That might come in the future though, right? Is the annual release of funds because you're just starting up?
Well, we can actually choose.
Oh, okay.
I think the way the consortium was set up, they switched it with Thurston got it 1 year, the rural, and then Olympia, I think, is that how it worked? Olympia the next and then us?
Tumwater and Lacey. So
Tumwater.
Olympia is their own.
Oh, yes,
entitlement
that's right.
community.
Olympia is their own entitlement.
Mhm.
So they would rotate. And now we're kind of doing it how we're kind of our own entitlement now. We're not part of the consortium.
So I think just to clarify on the frequency of receiving dollars, so because we are part of the consortium, that's how we agreed through an interlocal agreement to split the dollars. With us being our own entitlement community, we would, if there are dollars allocated by Congress, receive dollars on an annual basis pursuant to a formula.
So for example, when the COVID pandemic came, and if you were a direct entitlement community, you got an immediate additional allocation
Mhm.
directly. So where I had a very small community, similar amount of money, but I got CARES Act money that was double my annual allocation.
Yeah.
So there are benefits. It is an administrative lift, huge lift for a community. But there is a benefit too from that. If there's emergency funds or, you have that direct
Access to it.
Mhm.
And then also you do even before, when you were getting the funding from the county, you were doing your own federal reporting to get reimbursed, right?
The county did the federal reporting,
Okay.
so now we're doing it.
Okay, you'll have fun with that.
Yeah, and they
That's-
help
That's
us.
where a lot of time goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to work with them, so we have, our plans are connected, and I'm not gonna get into the minutia, but our plans are still connected with Thurston.
Nice.
But I'll be doing all the entry of the data.
Nice.
And that's one of the reasons why, even with thinking about city projects, we still think that, there should be some consideration of administration costs because there are still administration
Yeah.
costs.
100%.
Absolutely.
And I do think that the options of where you would like to see that money go within the city, I believe that it is serving some of the underserved community and people that have lower income, even though it's not going directly to them. Senior Center for one, they're the most underserved people in the community, as long with the vets, you know what I mean? So I like all those ideas. I think they're all great. I wish we could fund them all. I really do. I do think we definitely need more lighting, like going down Carpenter. So lighting is a good thing, and I think ADA access as well, I think would be good.
An underserved population.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely think, trying to improve their access to get around the city would be a good idea for the community infrastructure.
So I'm curious about, you said that the, everything is sort of due for this in July, so we're basically running kind of parallel timelines between the city grant money and the community development block grant program, like making these things happen kind of simultaneously. For the purposes of right now, this evening, you're not asking us to weigh in on which of these programs the city should adopt. You're asking us to weigh in on, does the idea that the city sort of manages the funding, where the funding goes, as opposed to opening it up to the world, that's what you're looking for us to be like, yay or nay on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so in your packet, there's 4 or 5 options at the last page, that talks about how we would like to, make options to. We're recommending option number 1, which would be to allocate our CDBG money for city capital projects over the first few years until we get up to speed on all of the requirements and reporting and things like that, and then allocate 10% or approximately 30,000 of CDBG funding for admin dollars. So that would go towards the program, managing the program and doing all the federal reporting requirements. But there are other options. You could recommend a different pot of funds, a different amount for capital, and then possibly do some competitive capital projects for the first few years, and then allocate 15% in admin, that's more. Then allocate CDBG to capital projects and community projects. This option 3 through a competitive process for the first few years, and then you would allocate 15% more to admin, and then option 4, all of the CDBG dollars through capital and be competitive, and then we would use our whole 20% to supplement the administrative costs. And there could be some other item that's not on here, some other mix that we haven't thought about.
Vice Chair, if I may. I personally was a part of a program that started out, and so like, I feel like the first year is always a pilot program to work out the kinks and stuff. So I mean, I think that the city choosing option 1, it is the best option because it can utilize the funds the best way possible, along with this, the lower admin fees that are gonna be attached, that will be, the money will be used for. So me personally, I think option 1 would be a good idea.
Nancy, Delia, do you have thoughts, comments you want to bring
I
into
like
this?
option 1.
Maybe
I don't have any problem with it.
Yeah, same here. I think it just makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think I'm in agreement with the rest of the commission that it seems option 1. I mean, I know around this table, we've all had experiences of getting things up. And I think there's something in, I think having the city manage this part of it, especially as we're still continuing to build, as Michelle said, the predictability of the city grant program. And I love the fact that I realize it's way more work for you, so I'm sorry for that, but I like that it is, that they're kind of running on parallel timelines, because I think over the next couple of years, it'll give us the ability to sort of see where the gaps are between the
Yeah.
two things, where we can weave and supplement and
Yes.
whatnot. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. So, would someone like to make that?
I'm gonna make a motion that we agree to option 1 for the CDBG grant. Close.
Go girl. I second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. That concludes that item.
So just to confirm that motion carried?
The
Yes.
motion carried. Yes.
Don't forget your gavel.
Oh.
I like.
All right, that concludes my presentation, and now I'm gonna hand it over to Shannon. Thank you.
She's gonna drive. All right, we're just gonna switch chairs here for a second. We're gonna introduce you all to a new tool that we're developing for the city and also the public to use in the future. And I know Michelle sent out the link earlier today and
Oh, yes, we're
we're
getting
looking
into the
for
good,
feedback.
we're getting into a good one.
So I'm just gonna figure out somehow how you stop your screen share since this is new. Go down to the PowerPoint and close my whole PowerPoint out. Okay. Yeah, this is a weird setup here. Yeah. You can see why there were some questions. All right, well, I'm just gonna give a high level overview with another PowerPoint, and I'll probably have the same problem here in just a second of closing out the PowerPoint for that one. But we're here to talk about equity maps, and we do have a draft to review, and we are reviewing it internally as well as with some other advisory board groups. Just to give a high level background, this is something that is identified in our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging strategic plan as one of the benchmarks that we'd like to see accomplished. And you can see it here under programs, policies, and services is the goal area. Under the sub area of city policies and the strategy and benchmark of integrate and reflect equity values in all policy and planning documents, for example, budget, comprehensive plan, et cetera. And number 2 here, create an equity map that supports the equity framework tool in other city projects. So equity tools, just for background, are decision-making models used to integrate equitable considerations into new proposals, policies, processes, procedures, and practices. The idea is that they allow us a tool to try to systematically evaluate how different community groups could be impacted by a particular decision. So they take into consideration impacts of, social identities groups. They emphasize data, they encourage community input and involvement. And we're talking about creating a broader tool for kind of thinking about programs. But one thing we needed was something to help us kind of focus some of those efforts and show, well, what does the community look like right now? And how can we use that information to make informed decisions with an equity tool? So we decided to start thinking about, let's frame that equity map. And that's really a visual representation of data, various data sites and information to analyze and track information related to equity. It identifies and quantifies key indicators, including economic status, education levels, access to resources, and we'll get into that in much more detail when we actually take a look at it. There are several jurisdictions in Washington state that currently have equity maps and have been in use for a number of years. And in some places they call equity maps livability maps as well. So for a couple of examples, we've got the city of Tacoma just to the north of us have an equity map. This is what theirs looks like. The county that Tacoma is in, Pierce County, also has an equity map and it looks slightly different, and you can see what this one looks like. The Port of Seattle.
Where are they getting this data from for race and ethnicity? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, so it's Census Bureau information, and so depending on when they publish the data, it's either from the census itself or their estimates based on statistical and smaller surveys throughout between the decade.
Thank you, I didn't mean to interrupt.
We'll take a look at that as we look at the data and what our draft is. And then also the city of Lakewood is another example. What we determined through looking at these various equity maps, and there are equity maps across the nation as well, Durham, North Carolina, Portland are a couple that come to mind. What we found is that some of the indicators vary, although oftentimes they have some that are the same. For example, some of the demographic information from the census. And why the census? Because that is one of the only places that you get consistent information across large spaces. We can do a survey here at the city and, we have about 20,000 households. And if we get about 400 households to participate, that's actually a very high number for us, which it doesn't sound very high when I'm saying it. When you have the census, obviously there's a lot of resources and energies and you're getting a lot more folks taking it. And it's not just in the city, you can have the ability to compare it to a multitude of places. So we did take a look at some of the indicators and how they varied. There's also preferences in some of the design features and then also data availability. So they pull from information from the national scale, but then there's also places where they use localized data. And I'll use the example of roadway condition. So we do what's called a pavement condition index scoring every 2 years here in the city, meaning that we have folks drive around, they have a consistent scoring sheet, and they score every segment of roadway in the city to be able to say how good our roadway is. And this happens in other places as well, but it may not happen in every place. So,
Have they been on, what's that road, Bones Road?
Yeah, and we could look up the exact score. They drive through every single bit of road, and we can take a look into whether that portion that you're looking at is in the city or in the county. So we've done that, and what we decided to do was hire a consultant to be able to gather all this information and create the dashboard that is the equity map. We set up an interdepartmental team to lead this effort. So we had representation from our city manager's office. We had our equity and inclusion program manager involved in it. We had our GIS coordinator involved. And then we also had a person from our community and economic development team. From that, we created the draft working with the consultant, and now we're bringing it out to broader review. We had a review with some more interdepartmental stakeholders within the city, and now we're looking to get some feedback from some key stakeholders outside of the city. And so we've brought this to our Commission on Equity for some feedback. We're bringing it here tonight for some feedback from you all. And then we're also hopefully going to be able to get it in front of the Lacey Youth Council and also our Planning Commission. With the idea is that we'll take all this information and in the next month, hopefully finalize the map itself and then publish it on the website for external and internal use, hopefully by the end of this quarter or the very beginning of the next quarter. So with that, we'll take a look at the actual map itself.
And that time it was really easy. Well, nope, I spoke too soon. It said stop here. It didn't stop over here, so close out of that. And we'll share the map. Do we have it open, Michelle?
It might be under a different browser. Try is it under the? It should be open.
Let's try this one.
That might be it. On the tab, there.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for the assistance there. So this is what the draft equity map for Lacey looks like. One thing I do want to make note of is that it doesn't just show Lacey, it's also showing the UGA, so the urban growth area. And we are working on finalizing some of the boundaries. They're not quite correct, but we're working with the consultant to do that. And one of the other things is that because we're taking information from census block groups, they don't perfectly align with our urban growth area or our city boundaries. And so there are places where you'll see, like, for example, down here, where just a little bit of space spills over into unincorporated Thurston County, because that's actually not in the city, but that's in the same census block group as up here. So we're still working on some of the boundaries, but I think, one of the key things is that we wanted to show not just the city, but our urban growth area. And so you can actually toggle between the city and the urban growth area up here. So if you only wanted to take a look at the urban growth area, you could turn on information only for the urban growth area. You can see here on this dashboard, all of that information has updated to be reflective of the UGA. You could also turn on both the city and the UGA all at once, and it'll compile all of that information into one place. And you can see here that the population is about 95,000 when you do that and combining the two. But we'll start with just looking at the city itself for the purposes of tonight and the introduction of what it is. So one thing that I think is really key with the map is just to point out some of the basics. Number one, you can see we have a map here, again, showing our boundaries with some colors, and it is showing right now the equity score. So the equity score being 5 indices. So we've got accessibility, livability, education, economy, and environment. And there's multiple data sets within each of those indices, but the equity score itself is a combination of all 5 of those. So it's taking into account your scores in those 5 areas and combining it to give a total score for that block group. And so the areas that have the darker color, this kind of burnt orange and score very high, means that they have greater equity for the folks living in that space. So that may mean that they have more access, I should say, to things like food, to sidewalks, less emissions, toxic emissions, bus lines, yeah, all of that. Comparative to the block groups that you can see in this lighter tan kind of yellow color, meaning that they have less access to the combination of those types of things. One of the things we've heard from folks is, well, but hey, I've got a grocery store in one place. Well, that's just one of the data sets that goes into it. And so even if you have a grocery store, that doesn't mean that it's going to show, on the totality score that you have high equity. So just to kind of lay the foundation of how to read this map itself, you can go over here to About and open this About, and there is a guide that explains how the equity map works and how it's all fits together and what are all of the indices that are involved. So just to open this up briefly, we won't spend too much time in here. You can see it gives an introduction on, again, what the general overview of the map is. And then down here at the bottom, it tells you every single data source that was used as part of creating the map. We have identified a couple that aren't in there, and so we will be updating it. Everything's a draft, and that's why we do these types of reviews. So I just want to take a second here to show all of the demographic data sources and to really just highlight that for most of the demographic data points, their polarity is neutral. And so what that means is that they are not taken into account in an equity score. They are just there for information only. So things like race, ethnicity, foreign-born population, that's just to provide the reader with information. It does not go into any sort of calculation with equity.
But you can see that there are some that could, and so you see limited English proficiency as one of them that is taken into account. For the other indices, let's say economy as an example, again, you can see the data source, we have quality job index, and you can see on the polarity side here, it does say higher is better, meaning that that data point is actually used within the indices to help calculate that overall score of not only the economy indicator, but for the total equity index itself. And so you can see where all of those data sources are for each of the indices and take a look at those in more detail. So going back to the map here, after you take a deep dive into the information, you can access all of the indices that we just talked about over here on the right-hand side of the dashboard. So for example, we're looking at demographics right now. So you can see population, individuals with disability, race and ethnicity, foreign-born population, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, keeps going. If you toggle over to accessibility, it'll pull up the data sets that are used for the accessibility calculation, in addition to maybe some other ones that aren't, but just for good points of data. So you can see under this one, you have transit accessibility, which I think you were pointing out, internet access, access to household vehicles, average road quality. So going back to that PCI score we were talking about, retail jobs, 4-year average voter participation, library access, and food access. And right now we're looking at across the entire city at this point in time, just to point that out. Same thing would happen if you go to livability. It's got some different metrics. It has home value, cost burden households, self-rated health, health uninsured rate, fatal or serious injury crashes, low life expectancy, and then walkability. And then it provides crime here currently as just an informational only. Under education, we've got educational attainment, high school graduation rates, average student test rate, average student mobility rate, and kindergarten readiness. One of the things about all of these data sources, if you don't know what one of them are, or you have questions about where that data is actually coming from, you can select the little information icon just to the right of it, and it'll pull up more information of where it's from, how it's used, and where you can go back and access the original data. So you can see here for average student mobility rate, this is coming from the National Center for Educational Statistics. You can click on this link and you could go directly to that data source and learn more about it. And then it's also providing more information on how the city, because that's what it's currently set at for data, compares to the county in totality. And so one thing I neglected to remark at the beginning of this is that the map is actually doing a comparison from the city and the UGA countywide. And so if we had just selected the city and the UGA, it would have had fairly similar data, but it's giving us a presentation across the county. So you can see here in our selected area, which is currently the city, you can see how the distribution falls for this particular category comparative to the county itself. So for each one of those, you can get more information if you wanted to dive down and get more information. For economy, going on to our next indice, I think we actually already did economy. Oh, no, we didn't. So we have quality of job index, unemployment rates, median household income, home ownership rate, non-auto commuters, and poverty rate. And then our final category is environment, where we have heavy traffic roadways, urban tree canopy, and then some emissions and toxic concentrations and the ozone concentration. So all of these data are sorted into these various indices and then they're calculated. So just to go back to our left-hand side over here, it is a lot of information to take in all at once. And maybe you're just really interested in a particular type of information. So you can actually select map options over here and you can turn off the equity index, which is that overall calculation. And you can turn on an index that maybe you're particularly interested in. So for example, if you were interested in the livability index, this is only taking the data points from the livability, so over here, and now providing you that information across the entire city. You can also turn all of those off and you can go to particular map layers. So if you wanted to know about food access in the community, you could select just food access as a layer, and you could find areas where there is good
comparative food access to areas where there's less quality
Mhm.
access to food. And so you can do that for all of the data sets and get a pretty, broad understanding of what's going on in the community. Just to reset this here for a second and turn everything off here, I'm gonna put back on the equity index map. Another thing that the tool allows you to do is it allows you to focus in on particular areas that you might be interested in learning more about. So we'll wait for the internet here to reload the map.
So you're writing this or you're using a program and putting in statistics, local statistics?
So we're working with a consultant who is helping us pull together all of that data, and
Okay.
they're putting all that information into this platform so that we can use it. And the idea would
Is
be
this
this.
new? Or has it been around for a while? Like the map with the different demographics and stuff?
This is new. This is again something that we identified as something to look to create for the community as part of our diversity, inclusion, and belonging strategic plan. And so we've
It's
never had anything.
amazing. Yeah.
Very impressive.
So another thing you can do is you can focus in on a particular area. So I know we toggled between the different official jurisdictions, but maybe you're just interested in, hey, what's the community like a mile away from City Hall? Let's go with that. You can pick any type of the selection tools here. We know City Hall is about here. And then it'll start telling me, well, what's a mile from City Hall? We'll go about here and we'll have it pull the information and the data from that point. And so you can see now everything's updated. The population in this area is about 5,000. You can see individuals with disabilities is about 17. So comparative to the community at whole, which was about 10%, you can see that there are more individuals with disabilities living within this area. And so just as kind of future tools and applications, as we're thinking about things like the Human Services grants and our community development block grant dollars, let's just say there was a hypothetical program to increase ADA access, we could look at places in the community and say, where might we want to concentrate some of those efforts?
Yeah.
You can also use the draw tool. So maybe you're interested in a particular area, but it doesn't match a circle or a rectangle. You could draw your own space and get the information and the data from that space
Wow.
in particular. So it's going to calculate it roughly.
Will this be being updated on a regular basis, once you guys have it up and live and running?
And the idea would be that we'd update it every 2 years.
Okay.
Just recognizing that some of the data sets don't change too much.
Yeah.
And things like estimates change once a year, but they don't really change that much year to year.
Okay, thank you.
Another thing you can do is you can also search and select. So if you knew, the zip code or the address that you're interested in, it'll pull you right towards it. You can select a block group. So if we were to be interested maybe in those qualified census tracts, we could pull up those specific qualified census tracts and get more information. So I think it's one of these ones.
Did you say you're putting this on the website?
Yep, this will be available for folks.
Isn't that amazing?
Yep. So if we just wanted to learn about this one particular area, we could do that and it would update all of the information just to focus on that particular area. Great thing about this tool is you can share it. So if you wanted to share this with a commissioner, you're like, hey, I want you to take a look at this. You could share that information and it will send the exact map you were looking at. You can also print the map you were looking at as well. And you can also download all of the data sets and comparisons between different block groups. So that was a real quick overview of the equity map, and
Impressive.
we're working on it, but we want to get some feedback. So open to any thoughts, ideas, considerations.
I think for not a rough draft, but like what you guys got, it's pretty informative. What are you guys specifically looking to provide? Or are you just wanting feedback, or this is a great thing, it's super informative. Is there something we're hoping we get back, whether it's feedback or make sure there is more diversity within, some of the statistics that are being provided?
Yeah, I think
That
short
makes
term.
sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Short term, what we'd love you all to do is spend 15 minutes playing around with the map
and testing, things that maybe you think about the community or information that you're interested in, and seeing if there are any usability issues, if you think there's any data issues, and sending it to Michelle, who will send it to me, and we'll make sure it gets to the project team. So that way we can make sure that when we go live to the community, we have the best step forward with the map. Long term, I think, great question. We want to again use this to help us inform our own policies and programs, and also to make it available for the community so that they can use it to help with their policies and programs. And so I'll use a hypothetical example of, if a nonprofit was applying for a grant, let's say it wasn't our grant, but some other grant, they could take this information and they could make a compelling case for their particular program, and why there's a need for, additional food access in this community.
Just like on our application.
Exactly. That could be a future use of it.
Wow, okay, that's amazing.
I think it's amazing too. I just don't believe the statistics. I believe that there's more people of color in Lacey than what is being reported. That's about it.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, it's a good thing to say. And I think too, one of the things is because the census is how, a person self-identifies.
Yep.
And, there were census categories that have been added that haven't been there in the past. And
And
so
there's some
maybe
people
more
ignore
folks
them.
are, it's a good point. And it's only as good as the data we have. And unfortunately, that's the best data we have.
And then some people, they avoid the census because they don't want to be identified. So I get it. But as overall, as far as like the way you can access it and use it, I did play with it. I was
It's a
bored. I
good
was
start.
And I think it's a beautiful start. It looks really good and I do like it a lot. It's very informative.
Great. Well,
Yeah, I guess, oh, no,
no.
one of the things that I'm would be curious about, and I don't know if this map would do this or not. We are lucky in Lacey to have so many different nonprofits that are doing all kinds of things, and there's a part of me that wonders, is there a way to add some sort of a layer where it's like, I'm trying to think of something like the school backpack, Little Red Schoolhouse,
Mhm.
that is, like,
Add a resource page. So
yeah,
they can like identify in the area that they're in,
Mhm.
and find community resources in that area. Is that what you're meaning?
yeah, I would be curious to see that both for the individual user.
Mhm.
And then also for us, for sort of long-term thinking, the reason I grabbed the school supplies thing is that I can think of so many different groups to the point that I'm like, how is it that every single child in Lacey doesn't have their school supplies provided between all these various things?
Yeah.
And yeah, so this may not be the map for it, but I think about how to
Like a
map sort of,
clearinghouse.
yeah, like what are our, where are all of our nonprofits? What did they perceive as their reach? Because I would be curious to know, it's like, oh, well, if a lot of people are focusing energy on this part of the community, or this geographic region or this whatever, versus, maybe some of these spots on the map that are in sort of like the very low wouldn't change because it's like, oh, they're very low on everything, including access to nonprofit resources or whatnot. Yeah, I don't know that this map is necessarily the map for it, but it makes me think about that.
There is a page, Vice Chair, if I may,
Yeah, please.
there is a page on Thurston County's website
Mhm.
that provides all those community resources and stuff throughout Thurston County in different areas
Mm.
that is updated on a regular basis by the county staff.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good point that you're making. And, I think, this map and what we're looking to do with this right now is probably not going to be that application. But what I will say is, and Michelle's going to be involved in this, we're working with South Sound Military Communities Partners on a program that will help service members and active duty, help them kind of do some of their transitions and offer what kind of services might be available during their transitions and service posts. And so the concept is very similar to what you're talking about of like, you know, what kind of services could I get with my zip code of this and that? And so I think that could be a springboard to a larger conversation about other tools, but we're gonna start small.
Yeah.
And see how that goes in, you know, a future time. Maybe we'll get an update for this group on what that looks like and how that application is working.
That'd be amazing.
That'd be great.
Great. Well, if y'all, again, have feedback over the next couple of weeks, please just send it to Michelle and let us know what your experience is.
Of course.
But I didn't know where I was going.
Yeah,
so
you did. I was playing.
A little bit better tomorrow.
Mhm.
Oh, thank you so much for working with us. All right. The last item on the agenda is a tour of the Veteran Services. So my presumption is that we are not going to carry the little camera thing around with us. So is this where we adjourn or I realize we can't. How let me just ask the question. How would you like us to do this next part in order to be
So that Dahlia can come with us.
to help us be, you know, make sure that we're following our public facing availability, accessibility, all the bits.
Well, it is agendized, and so it is part of the meeting, so we would adjourn after the tour, correct?
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think we can try to bring Dahlia along here. Yeah.
I love it.
It would probably be easier to FaceTime. Could we do that?
I think we can join the Zoom and then bring in.
So what would remain after the tour is just to announce that we're adjourning at a particular time. And
Oh, yeah, no, that is all good. I just want to make sure that we're doing all of the public facing stuff that we need to do appropriately.
So if I disconnect my computer from the. Shannon's trying to log into the.
You may have to let me in.
So if I've already done the tour, I still need to go.
You don't have to if you don't want to. You've been here before.
I'm going to be plugging in my phone before it dies. It's at 2%. So if my camera turns off, I am still here.
Thank you for letting us know.
Are you somewhere far and fun? Dahlia,
What was that?
somewhere out of the country?
Yeah, I'm in Mexico right now.
Well, thank you so much for joining us from Mexico. Gosh,
Of
the wonder-
course. Yes, we're not too far apart in time. I'm a couple hours ahead, but I'm glad I was able to make it on this.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, let me find a charger. One quick second.
I'm in the exact same boat, but I'm not using my phone. Hey, Michelle, for what it's worth,
Okay, I'm here.
attachments on this didn't come through. Were you the same?
Yeah, that's why I wasn't looking at it.
Well,
I just like
that's
went
why
out.
I'm like looking at my little bitty phone.
I figured that's why you were doing it. I was like, I'm just hoping that she'll just look through it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Michelle, I think I'm an attendee right now if you want to promote me.
Panelist. So you will be joining as a panelist.
So can you go back to the panelist and make her the host? Make a co-host. There you go. And then the co-host should be able to put their video on as we walk through.
Looks like it's recording. Is there legends to please?
She declined to be promoted to a panelist.
I am there.
No, she's there. She's got to unmute herself and her camera.
Oh, did you see though at the top, the message that came across?
Oh, supposed to be declining the host.
Okay,
Hey.
There she goes. See, we did it.
All right, for those who'd like to join on the tour.
Well, we're gonna get an echo like kindergarten style, Shannon walks ahead and you walk at the back, and the rest of us kind of. You said it. Okay, so. We have our two bathrooms up here. This is the vet center. This is actually a federal VA center that provides, mental health resources for.
It's amazing what you can do with technology, isn't it?
Actually a federal. So you can see that's Department of Veterans Affairs, but we refer folks up here and they refer folks downstairs. It's good, nice to have those partnerships. You will head downstairs. So we actually received a congressional grant to put a lift elevator in the hub. So that is gonna be going right here. Hopefully, we'll be having bids on that project soon, spring and summer. To improve the parking out in the parking lot and as well, the handicap parking as well as putting an elevator with. A better accessibility. We have two unisex bathrooms here as well. So here's where, this is the hub. We have, this is our general office area where they check in, veterans come in, you either enter from the site, the door over there, the door, front door, not as easily to see, but we get folks coming in both ways.
My
but
husband, so I've been in and out several times and he loves giving the tour. Do you want me to stay with the stuff and you can go with them?
Used to see myself how this.
You guys familiar?
It's they provide
The voucher, the voucher program. So this is again part of the VA housing services to homeless veterans. And then this is our computer lab. We have a open computer lab for folks to use. Again, 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. Folks can come in and if veterans need to use the computers and they need to print records, they can use our printer. This is our WorkSource office. We have 2 WorkSource counselors here. There's always a WorkSource counselor here Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. Sometimes on Thursdays, but we have what's called the Veteran Housing Option Group. And that's when all the service providers come together to provide services for homeless veterans. And so WorkSource is one of the providers, HUD-VASH, Thurston County Veterans Assistance Program. There's many different providers that come together to provide a kind of a one-stop shop. So the idea of the Veteran Services Hub is to provide a one-stop shop for veterans, active military, and their families to get service. They don't have to go to 4 different offices to get different services.
And coordinated entry also comes once
Yes.
a week.
Coordinated.
And so does our not family research, I believe. And if not, we're gonna make.
This is our break room. This was part of the city of Lacey has put a lot of dollars into remodeling and renovating this building. So it's actually owned by the South Puget Sound Community College, which is a great landlord and a wonderful partner. We have a long-term lease with them. So we've invested dollars to kind of remodel this interior, and now we're gonna be adding on to the accessibility. So we have 4 telehealth offices here. These are available for veterans to come in and use if they need to have private appointments with like treatment or counseling services. They can come in and get one of these offices, or they meet one-on-one with one of their counselors. So sometimes folks want to meet one-on-one with their counselor and they need privacy. They can come in here and meet in the private office. So these are all kind of drop-in type of offices where people can book them with us. Occupied by
our Thomas Edison University, and we also have Grand Canyon University here. They're here part-time. And then we also have legal services twice a month, provided pro bono. So we have an attorney for services pro bono. This office is the Veterans Services, Veterans Administrative, can I think? Thurston County Veterans Assistance Program. There, I found the words. This is their office, and they provide direct assistance to veterans, emergency rental assistance, help with utilities, emergency repairs, income eligibility applies. It's nice because I've seen folks who get services and have that, you know, have that for them. Multiple services. We have, this is what they call a veteran service officer. He works for the state. He, the Department of Veterans Affairs for the state of Washington. He helps veterans file their benefit claims. We have several VSOs. He is actually full-time Monday through Friday. These two offices here are the Travis Manion Foundation. They work with veterans conducting mentorship programs with active duty and transitional military members. Or telehealth offices that we spoke about. This is a kind of a shared office where our VSOs have volunteer VSOs. We have a paid VSO. So this is again an office that's shared by several volunteers through the Disabled American Veterans Organization. So people can come in and they help walk them through and get their disability claims processed. And they are here, typically this office is occupied Monday through Wednesday right now. So this is another office right now. It's kind of ad hoc use. We're going to be hopefully doing some switching around, getting some additional VSOs in here. So the idea is to have, you know, more services available to the veterans. This is our community resource board. We just implemented this so people have flyers for events for the community. They can come in and put those up. And as I mentioned, we do have a food bank, and this is where we have our food bank in here. We have some wheelchairs and walkers for folks that need them. This is our food bank. We go through about a pallet every couple months where you can see all these have been distributed already. This is the Thurston County Food Bank. We call it a satellite location. We also can get, so that's all non-perishable foods, but then we also have frozen foods. Pricing we're down to one bag of peaches. That's good. The peaches are popular. If they have access to a stove, they can get, you know, fully cooked meat, and we even have some vegan meat. We have a lot of personal hygiene kits that are free for folks to use. And we have some sanitary information sanitary items, socks, masks, things like that. So all of this stuff can be available to community members who come in who are accessing services. About that. Oh, impressive. Yeah. Some of the things we've started having free coffee for everybody who comes in. We do that every morning. We more opportunities to know what's happening. So community board, kind of having a board about what's happening, what are the upcoming events. If we have meetings like VHOG, we'll write VHOG today 10 to noon and say if there's any kind of special classes happening, kind of just let people know what's going on. One of the other really big pieces we have is this mostly volunteer run organization. So all the front desk is volunteer. We have, right now we're currently joint managing the hub with the Thurston County. And so we split the managerial duties on site. I'm here Monday and Friday, and the county is here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to kind of be the on-site manager. But we have over 20 volunteers who volunteer at the front desk and also help us with our transportation program. We have free door-to-door medical transportation for veterans in our community. So we have 2 vans, and they go anywhere in Thurston County, door to door, and also up to American Lake. So they get used a lot. Yeah. that's kind of, we have a robust volunteer program and a robust transportation program, and then making sure our providers are, getting the services the support that they need to be successful too. That's another big part of it.
That's fantastic. This is such I mean, those of us who've been in the nonprofit world for a long time know that it's all like everything, the more we can network and collaborate, it serves our people well, but it also serves us well. And yeah, this is such a great example of that.
No wonder you're so knowledgeable. You're here twice a week.
Here's twice a week.
Yeah, you guys are doing an amazing job. And I love this for the veterans because they are, again, another underserved population.
Yeah, we're constantly trying to get people to connect with each other and other community serving organizations so that folks can share resources and not be kind of one person doesn't know, oh, hey, did you know that so-and-so does this? And having it all in one place is very helpful. Absolutely. So this is our kind of our welcoming front desk. Any questions about the hub?
No, thank you for showing us.
Seems like such a great organization. I'm glad that the veterans have that. I have a question. If I wanted to like rewatch this meeting, just to like go over things, is there a way I can do that?
Yes, it's available online. So if
I
you go
can just look it up online. Okay.
go to the City of Lacey website and then you go to public meetings and you can just click on the date and it'll be
Okay.
recorded there.
Okay, perfect. Great. Thanks. Thank you.
Great.
And thank you for bringing me along.
And after figuring out the.
Am I also following you guys back up there?
Yeah, I think we'll just end the meeting here in just a second.
Okay, I was like, it's like
All right, it is 7:02, and we would like to thank the City of Lacey for helping us figure out how to have a public meeting in a place that wasn't all. I know it was a lift, and so we're so thankful for that.
We're very glad you could be here.
And good work, commissioners. So it is 7:01, Thursday, April 3rd, and our meeting is adjourned.
amazing. Thank you, ladies.